You all to the Harwich Golf Committee meeting. I am Martha Duffy. I am co-chair of the committee. And yesterday I found out that our chairman has COVID and asked me to fill in for him today. So we have our agenda in front of us. I'd like to recognize John Crook being here, Paul White, Carol Fuller, Steve Bellato, and Roman. So, welcome. The agenda is pretty straightforward. We will follow accordingly. You all have the support reports from the different subcommittees, and that will give you the information that you need in order to participate in the agenda. First on the agenda is the acceptance of our minutes for, I believe it was September 13th. Would anybody like to,
I think it was the August,
was it August?
23rd.
Oh, August 23rd.
It's our special meeting, I think, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Carol?
I would like to request a revision of the proposed minutes of that special meeting. I feel that the minutes lack clarity by not initially stating the purpose for the meeting. And I don't feel the minutes should require the reader to immediately go to attachments to understand what the minutes are about. I have a proposed wording, which I can read or not. I also, this is minor, but that we go over the adjectives of, instead of Ms. Smith, be Mr. Smith, and instead of Mr. Duffy, be Ms. Duffy, just minor corrections there. So that's my proposal, and if you would like me to read my recommended introduction, I can do that, or anyone else could certainly weigh in.
Well, I also have that problem too, Carol, because my attachment was not attached or put in the minutes of that meeting. So I think what I would like to do is to table the motion and get the secretary to put in the attachment for Carol Fuller and for Martha Duffy. Yes, Don?
Yeah, if I may make a comment, this is a generic one. It's for all your meetings. Attachments are only in order if the attachment itself represented a point of discussion in the meeting. You can't attach a run-up document. It either was in the meeting or it wasn't in the meeting, because minutes are a characterization of a meeting. Right. So if there's an email or whatever, and it wasn't actually read in its entirety into the record, it doesn't exist as part of the record. Just so everybody understands that when you do take it up.
Yeah, Don?
Yes.
Don't, go ahead.
So in this case, we were asked by the chair to submit what we each said, which we did. So but the attachments were not included in this minute. It was it just referred to it an attachment. That's number one.
So you each characterized your own statements at the meeting?
We read them. Yes.
We made statements that I will admit were scripted because it was very important to get the words
It still should be a characterization of the meeting itself. I mean, I don't care what you were reading from. If somebody needs to extract that and put it in the minutes.
Well, I would agree. We were asked by the chair to submit what we had said, and we did.
And we did.
And
Again, the minutes should be self-contained, should not have attachments to, or run up to them, and what was said should be in the minutes. They don't have to be word for word because it's not transcript, it's minutes.
Right.
So you're going about this the wrong way. Don't attach anything
we
to these.
we didn't do the attachment, Don. The chair attached this.
I'm saying generally to everybody, this isn't singling him out specifically, but minutes are not a transcript of a meeting. They are a characterization of the meeting, and whatever the high points were that were said should be in the minutes. You shouldn't be referring to anything but the minutes for the meeting.
Great.
Okay. Then,
So, but in addition, and maybe this will correct itself, by doing that, it will give the reader of those minutes the sum and substance of what the meeting was about.
Exactly. You probably don't need the preamble because it's, again, whatever the meeting was, because you're not creating a meeting, you're characterizing a meeting.
right. Right.
Great.
Okay.
So we'll get Mike to do that for the next meeting. So the director's report,
Okay, great. I've just got a few items to go through here. I wanted to recognize a staff retirement. We had a staff member who retired after 43 years on the job for the town of Harwich. That's Rain Ryder from our maintenance crew. He's been our foreman / second assistant superintendent. He's done a wonderful job, and we wish him well in retirement. So I believe Clem was going to ask for a motion to write a letter of appreciation, but we can leave that to next. I think he had more of a write-up on Rain Ryder that he received from Sean Fernandez. But for now, I just wanted to recognize that. And also, along the same lines, I wanted to just say thank you to all of our seasonal staff for the 2022 season on both maintenance and the operation side of things. We had a wonderful staff. A lot of the core members return year after year, but we had a lot of students that also joined our staff, so a few new people. And every year staff is just a little bit different, and this was a really high-quality staff. They did a lot of good work. So I want to recognize them. As far as maintenance goes on the golf course, we're going to have our seasonal staff employed until 10/31, so basically the end of this month. And they're currently working on a green aeration. It was postponed from tomorrow and Wednesday to Tuesday and Wednesday next week because of the weather forecast. They need nice dry conditions so that doesn't get really messy on them. And then other than that, you'll see the maintenance staff edging bunkers, adding sand to bunkers. They're doing a little side bunker work as well. As far as procurement goes, we have two bids that are going to contract right now that will be before the select board for their approval. One is the driving range tee and bunker renovation, and the low bidder there was Bowditch Excavating. So you'll see that upcoming going to contract. The second one is the short course and putting complex. We received 3 bids there, or 3 quotes on the solicitation for quotes, and the town administrator selected the Richard Mandel quote as the one that's going to go to contract. So that'll be before the select board, I believe, by the end of the month. As far as clubhouse maintenance goes, we have some projects that we're working on with our facility maintenance crew in this winter. Mostly the work will be on the back deck, and it's going to include rebuilding the back deck stairs and all railings on the deck and the soffits, which are the horizontal trim at the top of the porch. Pro Shop merchandise, we've been meeting with vendors to order the 2023 Pro Shop merchandise. And I just want to report that because I know that the committee suggested we have some members of our Women's Association and Jane King and Bev McCullough have attended 2 meetings with our sales reps so far to recommend clothing purchases, and they'll attend a trade show this Wednesday as well in Hyannis. And just a brief rundown on events. On the 10th of this month, we held an event for the Monomoy Athletic Boosters with 76 participants. On the 13th, we held the Harwich Chamber of Commerce tournament that was rescheduled from a rainout in the spring. that had 56 participants. And then this Thursday, we're gonna host a benefit for Nauset Hockey. And it's my last note, Jake's at Cranberry Valley is scheduled to close for the season on November 8th. I just want to thank them for all their efforts in a good first season, and I look forward to working with them going into next year, in year 2 of their 3-year contract.
Are there any questions of
Just a
Roman?
comment, if I might, Madam Chair. I appreciate the recognition you're giving to the seasonal help, because it really makes a difference, not only in your ability to run the course, but also, for our visitors, it's important. And all summer, it's really been top-notch. So
Thanks for the
you made
comments.
good choices in who you retained and hired new this year. And then I've been very pleased. Every time I go to the course, I try to utilize Jake Rooney's operation there, and I'm so glad they brought so many of the staff back who had been with the prior vendor, who, the people we grew to know and like and so forth, and I think it's been a wonderful season, so, one person's opinion, but I've been really pleased at this year. Appreciate it. Thank you, Roman.
Thanks for the comments.
What kind of year did he have, Roman?
So, they've been very positive about their first year, and it really, I think there's a real learning curve between running a restaurant and running a restaurant at a golf course. So, I really think that they did a great job learning the flow of the golf course, and how to handle tournaments and things like that. They've been very positive as part of their contract. By December 31st, they're going to. They're responsible to turn over 1% of all net sales as part of their contract. So we'll see their financials at that point. But I've added casual comments. They're very happy with their first season.
You have no idea how he's done?
No, I have not seen any financials, no.
Roman, do you know whether his plans for next year are to expand his hours of operation? Because essentially, unless you start your round of golf before 12 o'clock, you can't get food service.
We haven't discussed next year yet, but I do know that in all my conversations all year with them, it's been really a staffing issue. They're really struggling to find staff and to staff the golf course beyond the hours they're currently staffing it. So we'll discuss next year's plans in this off season, but I imagine that they will try to.
That would be great.
Roman, in regard to the clubhouse maintenance, do you have a facility maintenance person
Yes.
on the course?
Oh, no, it's Sean Libby for the town of Harwich.
Okay, so is he the one who would come in and evaluate what needs to happen and put in the work orders?
Yes. So whenever there's something comes up, we call in the work orders. He's based in the highway department, so we call in work orders to the highway department and his office for like the day-to-day stuff. But also I spoke with him just last week. He's planning to come up and evaluate the buildings that we have in this off-season, and he's already got on his schedule and in his budget to do the work on the porch that I mentioned.
Yeah, because it's really been dangerous. I mean, there are railings that have fallen.
Yeah, they repaired railings during
And
the year.
all the fans are just hanging there. They don't even use them, Roman.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too bad that it seems to be left, all summer until now to have it fixed.
Yeah,
And the brother
so
is
he's
so
mentioned me
nice.
many times, it's so difficult to disrupt the day's business. We're so busy all summer that they try to do work that can wait until the off-season. But they're up, when we had a broken railing, they were up immediately to fix that, and they're up all the time for plumbing issues, things like that. So emergencies that come up, they have a very good response time.
Okay.
But anything big, they really want to push to the off-season when it won't disrupt business.
Sounds like you're getting ahead of the curve by having him come in and do a complete, thorough check of the clubhouse.
We do it every year, yeah. I mean, so we do that every year. We have Sean up and to make his recommendations all the time, but yes.
Okay. Any other questions, John?
Could you clarify what you mean by the fans hanging from the ceilings?
Yeah, they were just hanging from
What
a
do you mean?
string. They couldn't even be turned on.
Why wouldn't that have been exposed from Sean?
It should have been. We spoke
What do you mean,
to
they're hanging
people
by
about it.
wires, or
Pardon me?
are they hanging by wires, or what?
Yes, yes.
They are? Are they that way right now?
Exposed wire,
Are they that way right
Yes.
now?
unless they've been fixed, have they?
I don't believe any work's
No,
been
they
done on it.
haven't.
They're not operable.
Yeah.
Are they a
Is
danger?
in the bar area?
I'm
No,
not worried
it's
for
out
a
on the
danger, no, not at all.
There's
I-
no
Outside
danger
under
to it.
the
I don't
porch.
think so,
Oh,
no.
outside, I'm sorry, okay. Got it.
I just wanted to clarify, there's no danger to the public because of the
Well,
fans.
what we heard from the staff is they will not turn those fans on because they're afraid someone will get hurt with them falling down.
I believe that there's looseness to them, so when, you know, they don't spin perfectly level, so when you turn them on, there's some rattling and shaking in them, so they don't use them. But that's something we'll address, in the off-season.
Okay. The only thing under new business we have is the proposed rates and fees. And we received your report, Roman, and I want to compliment you on how thorough it was
Thank you.
and the background in comparison to other courses. So I really appreciate that. And this is the new business that is open for discussion from the Golf Committee. On the 25th of this month, we will have an open public meeting, and then the Golf Committee will vote.
Yes.
So October 25th, what time,
Yes,
Martha?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
It's a week from tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Yep. Madam Chair, I fully agree. I think the report was very full, and I think, appreciate the consistency in how we've been approaching this matter. And I think, by and large, I agree with the recommendations that have been presented. But in fairness, one of our members had raised a couple of points about, you know, at least considering the issue of whether the non-resident rate might be somewhat increased. I don't have a strong feeling on it, but I wanted to at least raise that point since he was unable to be here, and also talked about the possibility of skipping the dollar increase to the annual pass holders. And I just raised that for discussion if folks feel strongly or not on the issue. But in fairness to our member, Mr. Conley, I wanted to at least
Yeah.
put that matter before us.
Thank you, Paul, because I was going to read that. I think that what he was trying to, he did some background knowledge, research, and he felt that the proposed non-resident annual pass holder rate of $11.60, he felt was too low. In that, since 2018, the non-resident annual pass holder rate has only increased $70. And that's 4 years. He made a recommendation of an increase, because we are grouping all of the Chatham, Orleans as non-residents, to raise it to $1,200. And in regard to the cart fees, he felt the increase should be limited to guest cart fees. He said many clubs, like in Dennis, will give the members a $6 discount, and in Brewster, they give a $5 discount to the members. And he was hoping, because we are taxpayers, that we could be given some benefit in those areas, an increase in the areas that we can't.
Martha, can I answer one thing that's been brought up about the non-resident rates increase? So as you saw in the, and if any public want to follow along on the town website, under the golf committee, all the documents are on there. So if anybody wants to follow along with the report. As far as increasing the non-resident rate, the one thing I'd point out is that really the non-resident rate, especially this upcoming year, based on this recommendation and based on what the golf committee's decision was to have a 3-year increase to the Chatham, East Hampton, Orleans membership, so that one group there, Chatham, East Hampton, Orleans, represents 284 members, whereas the regular non-residents are only 43 members. So that one group has been incrementally increased very hard over the last 3 years, $100 per year. So that's why I didn't recommend raising that group this year. Now, as I said in the recommendation, we've been doing alternating years, and I would definitely see raising that rate once again next year. But this year, that one group of 284 people would be on their third straight year of $100 increase. So, I think it'd be a burden to bear for them to increase even further. I know those 43 non-residents have not gone up much, but now that they're all going to be grouped together, I think we'll move that group, extend that group out together in price.
We are still below every other town, and this is comparing this year's rates. The other towns may go up for their non-member rates non-resident rates as well. I think we have a little bit of room that won't hurt anyone, but will drive some revenue to us.
If I go back 3 years ago, part of our plan at that time, which you had presented to the committee, was that we wanted to get Eastham, Chatham up higher than the Harwich resident pass holder.
Right.
We had a 3-year plan to do that. And that right now, they're equaling the non-resident fee. And that was the plan 3 years ago. So, I mean, we're right on target versus what we had planned 3 years ago. So any increase from now on, next year, the group of Chatham and Eastham and Orleans will be going up commensurate with what the non-resident fee is.
That's right.
So we're gonna have 2 fees. We're gonna have the Harwich fee, and we're gonna have the non-resident fee.
Right.
And that's it.
That's true.
So I think what
yeah.
we've done is basically progressed right along with what our game plan was at that time.
Yes.
So I would recommend that we keep the fees as recommended by you, and then we address that next year as a group of non-residents.
That was my feeling also, because, as I mentioned, we've had consistency in the every other year raising members' rates and then raising greens fees, and next year would be an annual pass increase year. So just for consistency's sake, that's what I was thinking as well.
Martha? Just a couple of quick things. First, in line with Mr. Conley's email, when he couldn't be here, excuse me, on the cart fees, I would like to see, or would throw out an idea, that we actually hold or even reduce the cart fees for the resident members, under the auspice that we have told all our members for several years that one of the goals of the burden that the town took on and the golfers took on of redoing the cart barn and putting in the solar panels and the solar field and switching to electric carts, besides of the environmental gains, the usability gains of a nice GPS system, et cetera, we said, we're also gonna eliminate our electric costs at the course. And we anticipate actually being able to sell back some of the excess electricity from the solar panels back to Eversource or other use in the town. Let's claim the win. Let's pass on some of those savings to our members, to our annual pass holders. Even if it's a token dollar. I mean, part of the goal was to create that solar field to reduce the operating expense of the golf course. Why should not our annual pass holders reap some of that cost savings benefit. We achieved it. And we should be touting the fact that we got the project done successfully. It's working, the carts are wonderful, and we're helping with the environment, and lo and behold, we reduced operating expense. And I just think it would be a really nice way to follow through on a justification promise that we made of why we wanted to do the new car barn, why we wanted the new electric fleet, and why we wanted to go through the pain and suffering, because one of the longest delays we had in the car barn was getting the solar field hooked up to Eversource properly. That was accomplished. The town got that done. It's a win. Let's check it off as a win and communicate back to our annual pass holders in a monthly statement that because we followed through on the plan that we had and we were successful, enabled us to offer this token benefit to all our annual pass holders of $1 reduction on their card fees.
I agree.
There
I'll have a
is,
couple.
there is so little either profit or loss in that $1 that I think there's so much to be gained by reducing the fee. I think your figures, Roman, I'm not quite sure that's right, but this was across members and non-members. The net profit by that dollar was something like $8,000. Wasn't that correct?
I'd have to look
Yeah,
at it, I don't remember.
Yeah,
well,
so-
it's not a lot, it was about 8,000 rounds, I believe,
Yeah.
for 18 whole member cards.
I thought that was,
And for whatever it's worth,
Dollars.
if I could add to that, Carol, it potentially could be cost neutral, because if we reduce the cost to annual pass holders for the card fee, we might get a higher utilization of cards by the annual pass holders, which would easily, would potentially make up, or at least make a significant portion up of that lost revenue. And our cost savings on the electrical side are significantly more
your,
than $8,000, or even double it if we do $1 decrement, or triple it if we do $3. It's $24,000. We're gonna save far more than that a year now on a go-forward basis because of the solar farm. It was a great initiative. So few political, for lack of a better term, initiatives that are promised to taxpayers and such actually come to fruition, and the taxpayers actually get to see a quantifiable benefit. We should be waving the flag. We did it. It was a success. Let all of our pass holders share in the success of that project, and feel good about the fact that they have a town administration and government and golf committee and golf director that are doing these long-range plans for the benefit not just of the town and its revenue income from the golf course, but also for the golfers themselves and the townspeople of Harwich. I think it's a good show of a win, that a project that was done successfully with collaborative support from everybody involved, and let's turn it into something that we can put our hat on for, geez, we got this one done right.
yeah, and I found your calculation showed $8,918 of revenue to the course by upping $1. So it's certainly not worth, to me, the extra dollar. In fact, we may want to consider even more than $1 reduction for members.
I think we have somebody from the public. Is it legitimate, John, for us to take public comment as we have a discussion?
Karen?
I always default to more public discussion.
Better to hear from public than not, right?
Good time.
Yes,
Karen Doucette, Harwich resident, member of the course. So I couldn't agree more on this golf cart conversation, right? That there's only a differential between members and non-members of like $1 or $2. I think that's not enough. Ours should be lower. I don't think we should raise theirs and raise ours. I think we should go lower. But also, it seems to me on the financials, Roman, and maybe you could speak to it, it seems like the course made about $600,000 this year so far. And to me, whatever, $8,000 or $16,000 or $32,000, whatever you call it, to get a reduction in the resident golf carts would be easy to do if you look at those numbers, and if I'm reading them properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Somebody else from the public just raised their hand.
Hi, Bob Connor. Maybe some of you know me from 2 years ago. Try to get something resolved. In 2020, I talked to John Chury, because I said, John, it says we made $300,000 for the golf course. And he said, oh, Bob, $800,000 is not allocated to the golf course. It should be. So assuming that's true, we lost $500,000. I'm not arguing about that. My problem here is in Roman's numbers, and I have to take exception, our numbers, I don't think, are comparable to other courses. For instance, he says they're comparable. Dennis's course is $1,300, $875 for a member. But if you've been there for a while, it's as low as $679, and they have 2 courses. So if they have 2 courses for $700, and we have 1 course, we continue to take members with those 2 courses like Captains and Dennis. They cut off non-residents. They stopped taking it. So it's almost like it's half the price. They got 2 courses, they got plenty of tee times. They're paying a lower price. And if we really are losing money, I really have a problem with, I think we're insulting Chatham, the richest town in the Cape, that $100 is a tough burden for them. They can handle whatever we want to charge. For instance, it's an $830 upcharge if you want to join Captains. We're only like $300. I think Chatham has no problems if they want to join us to pay a little more. And if you look at his rates, and only Chatham does this, the other towns don't do it. I mean, only Harwich does this. The other towns like Dennis and Brewster. We're giving the Chatham collegiate and the young adults the same price as our kids. Why are we doing that? I mean, the kids from Chatham, certainly from 21 to 30, the average salary getting out of Greater Boston colleges now is 64, and if they're 30 years old, they're probably making twice that, more than most of our residents. I just can't see why we're giving a special deal to Chatham, the juniors, the collegiate, and the young adults when they're coming from a very wealthy family. They're not living here because at that age, they're off Cape making a lot of money. I think we really got to raise the rates when it comes to Chatham and not say, let's wait another year. It just doesn't make sense to me. And the other thing is, if you look at, and it was very explanatory, Roman's members, in the back page, we've gone from 2016 to 2022. Our Harwich residents have gone down 2% in total. Wonder why? Because they're going to other places. They're going to Dennis and they're going to Brewster. But Chatham's gone up in that period of time 95%. Eastham and Orleans has gone up 44%, and the non-resident carrier goes up 126%. We're getting all the non-residents, and we're losing our residents if you want to believe these numbers. And I think we've got to really look at this deeply. And I did pass it on to Roman, to John Conley, and to John Powers. Mass municipal law is you can't set a rate until you work up a cost. I've never seen a cost to maintain the range. I've never seen a cost to maintain the carts. It's like willy-nilly. We just raise rates without doing the proper thing of what's the cost to maintain these and run these before you charge the fee. So that's where I'm coming from. I just have exception to some of this analysis, and I'm concerned that the residents' numbers are going down, and Chatham, Eastham, Orleans, and the non-resident category, I'm not sure what the difference is, going way up. So just kind of take a look at these numbers and don't worry about Chatham. They get plenty of money. Oh, no. I wish I could live there. I can't afford it.
One thing, Martha, I would clarify is Bob, there's no, the Chatham residents in the collegiate and young adult categories do not receive any break. They did a few years ago, as a committee with the rates and fees a few years ago, we chose to eliminate them. The only rate that Chatham gets the same rate as Harwich is junior, and the committee chose to support that because of the regional school agreement, and because the kids are in the first T program together from Chatham and Harwich as being part of the Monomoy Middle School program.
Roman, is this incorrect then on this young adult Harwich/Chatham resident, 19 to 30? And it's $560.
Yeah, this is our, I think, that-
Is this the one that you sent out to us?
I'm sorry, that's.
Just the comparison?
No, it's the, oh,
Martha's looking
Yeah,
at
so
the page.
I can tell you for sure that Chatham residents are not part of the young adult or the collegiate categories. If that was part of the information I sent out, that was old information, sorry. I've got the current application for this year on my computer. Chatham, as a committee, we chose to eliminate Chatham from those categories. So the only category that Chatham residents get the same deal as Harwich is junior, 7 years old to 18 years old.
Roman, have we ever considered dropping that young adult to 19 to 24? I sort of agree with Bob. I know that
Well,
young adults that are 27, I mean, my grandnephews and grandnieces make so much more than I do. To have them pay just $560 or whatever.
Well, so the category 19 to 24, we have a category for that. That's the collegiate category.
Right.
The young adult category, I mean, so I've got it down here somewhere when that started. We started that about 5 years ago or so. And then, that's a category that, of golfers, it's really coveted because, they don't play a lot of golf because they're all working hard, and you want to get the families involved. So most golf courses, most golf operations do try to give them a special rate just because, really they're weekend golfers only for the most part because they're not retired. They're working a lot, and they have young families a lot of times in that category.
We're not talking about a lot of numbers either,
No.
are we?
No, very small.
60.
60. So, I
The
mean,
objective-
any change in the pricing fee is going to be, from an overall revenue standpoint, a rounding error. I mean, it's gonna be somewhat moot.
Right.
And I think offering a discount, even to people that may be working, Martha, and making a lot more money than we ever did. We're trying our best to encourage young people to get out on the course and play because the demographics, I don't know if we've ever seen the numbers, but those of us that play at Cranberry Valley regularly, we have a fairly aging group that play there all the time. And sooner or later, we're all gonna get too old or gonna be up in the sky or wherever you go. And that revenue stream's gonna fall off unless we have it backfilled with more and more young people coming to the course, liking the course, becoming full-time members when they hit that age, to keep that revenue stream steady. So I personally think anything we can do in terms of encouraging, part of our overall guiding principles and strategic plan is do everything we can to encourage young people to be on the golf course and to play golf and to take up the course and keep that revenue stream and that membership stream going on a go-forward basis. So I personally would not be a proponent for any significant change to the young adult fee.
Martha?
Yes, Carol?
I have a little bit of a disagreement with you. I think we have an opportunity to increase that fee, not be an overburden to that category, but at least keep up with the other towns. We can still go up $150 and still be cheaper than the least
Than any of
expensive
them.
town.
But are we gonna be less than half? Because the towns that you're talking about, that we're trying to do a comparative analysis of, Brewster, Dennis, both have two 18-hole golf courses. Yarmouth has 2.5. So it's really difficult to draw a direct, straight-line comparative analysis on the fee structure at one single 18-hole golf course versus surrounding towns that have two surrounding towns that have two, and one surrounding town that has 2.5.
Well, I don't disagree with that, except we still have an opportunity, I think, to increase that fee somewhat and not be a burden.
A burden to who?
To them or to us. If the fee is so low, then we will have people in that category playing on weekends and then at a very low fee, because that's what we said, these people will be playing on weekends, and then it will be a burden to the members who want to play on weekends, as well as the opportunity to get full tee time rates for out-of-towners. So that's just one way, I think, of looking at that.
Do the young adults get the same tee time allocation
Yes.
as full-time?
They're full members.
Full members, okay.
Maybe we could get to play more.
I think the other thought to that too is the young golfer usually has a young family that has 1 or 2 kids. They're always involved in tee games or Little League and so forth like that. They are not taking up a lot of tee times on both days of the weekend, that's for sure. If anything, they're probably getting out late in the afternoon or twilight during the week. But I don't think they're really a cumbersome disadvantage to our membership in terms of Saturday and Sunday morning play.
Roman, would you, when you put together your rates and fees, would you please take into consideration what has been discussed here?
Yes,
Okay? Because we will need that for the 25th.
absolutely. So,
I don't understand that comment. What does that mean? Are you
What
saying,
don't you
are you saying to change
understand,
the
John?
fees? Are you saying to change the
No,
fees that
I
Roman is
just-
recommending?
What did I say?
I don't know, I think you said based on what we had talked about.
Yes,
Now, what is that specifically that you're talking about?
what we discussed here,
What is that?
We've
rates
heard,
and fees,
but we've heard both pros and cons. And
Right.
you're asking that both the pros and
cons
cons
be
be
considered
considered and discussed as part of the
a part of the public
public meeting we have next week.
on the 25th.
On the 25th.
I don't think that's the procedure that we usually use with rates and fees.
It doesn't matter. That's what I asked.
the only, the one thing that I would mention as far as, a reduction, what's been discussed as far as a reduction in cart fees, I believe that would be against our current revenue share agreement for the carts, because the cart revenue share agreement was based on current fee structure. And so I don't believe we could go backwards.
What is that revenue share?
60-40, so 60% stays with the golf course, 40% goes to the cart company. And when they worked out that contract with us, the numbers were all crunched based on what the actuals were at the time.
But we could certainly just allocate them the $2 or whatever we're gonna reduce it by. Times the number of
Right.
cards, it's simple math. They would have,
Okay.
if, on the business side, if I was receiving that revenue, I would have no concerns whatsoever what the percentages are, as long as my fee structure doesn't change. And we can certainly do that easily enough when we do the allocation. Take the number of cards times $2, and that's what you add to the fee you're gonna send to the card fee company.
Martha, I think to Roman's point, I think we should make sure it's not a contractual matter, because that could trigger a problem for
Well,
our
that's
arrangement.
what he has to
Yeah.
look into.
but if it's a contractual matter, we may need to, I think Roman's point is, we can't go below the current fee structure, because the contract is arranged on that, and I don't have it in front of me, and neither does Roman, but I think we should just be careful not to violate a contractual
Absolutely,
agreement.
but we could certainly talk to the
We
company
don't have to,
about making
we don't have to, we
making
don't
an
have to
addendum and a
increase it
change.
necessarily, but we can't go below that level. Yeah.
Well, we may be
Just take that
able-
into account.
We may be able to do that by simply giving them the profit that they want on that certain amount.
As long as that's an option for us.
Right, right.
As long as that's an option for us. We've got to be careful when you talk about breaking contracts or amending contracts without the agreement on the other side. It's a two-party operation. I actually think Martha's request is good going forward next week, because frankly, we've been able to make progress in what we're charging over a several-year period, to John's point earlier, and we're on target to be where we need to be. Going forward, maybe we can consider some of these other options based upon, weighing the factors, the pluses and minuses going forward. But I think in order to proceed next week, I think we really do need to
Yeah,
keep
absolutely.
intact what we have in front of us.
Martha?
yes.
I agree as well. I think getting that information out, particularly out to the posting that we do from this meeting prior to the public meeting, and giving that information to the public and getting reaction, responses, thoughts from the public, which we're gonna get at the meeting, is a very good thing. My biggest issue when it comes to rates and fees is, you said, we're making progress. We did the 3-year plan for the out-of-town people versus the Harwich residents. My biggest issue is, we had record revenues. Why in the world would we even consider raising any rates for the taxpayers of Harwich this year, next year, whenever, depending on what next year's numbers come in? If we're having record revenues, what do we need the extra money for? It's not going to the golf course maintenance. It's not going to increases of that percentage anywhere close to the golf course budget. We're just increasing revenues because we've always done it. We're increasing rates every other year for the residents because we've always done it, and because it's gonna bring more money in to the town for non-golf issues.
Well,
I don't understand why part of our goal is not to strive to make sure we're solvent, that every golf expense, including shared services that we get from the town, is covered by the revenue of the golf course. But we set our rate structures in particular for the taxpayers of Harwich in such a way that we cover all our costs. And if we're looking for other revenue generation options, if we're looking for comparative analysis to other courses, I mean, it's been interesting. The 3 years that we've increased the out-of-town rates for Howard, for Chatham people, we've had an increase in the number of members from Chatham. So, I mean, we can look at all of these issues. We're in obviously good competitive situation, because the people from Chatham didn't have to pay the $100 increase each year for the last 3 years. They could have gone to Dennis or to Yarmouth or to Brewster. But we're seeing our numbers for members in Chatham going up. But I mean, we keep talking about generating incremental revenue as a positive thing, and no downside whatsoever. The downside is we're asking our taxpayers to pay more for the same service that they've had in the past, and more beyond what the increases in running and operating and maintaining and trying to keep up the snuff and make it a good sellable product by continuing to maintain it to a high standard without doing that. I mean, I just don't understand it.
Steve, I think that, excuse me, Roman, I think there's a lot of variables, Steve. You look at your operational budget,
Yeah.
Roman. There are variables today. Things are more expensive. We're looking at staffing, salaries, health insurance, retirement. All of these things go into that operational budget. So we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face and not increase where people expect increases. You go to the store, you go anywhere, everything is 25, 30% more.
I understand.
So I think
But-
that we have to be careful, Steve, that we're not doing the right thing financially for the
Oh,
club
I-
and for everybody.
I would not in a million years suggest we have a rate structure that's gonna cause us to run at a deficit.
Right.
That's gonna cost more due to those increases that we may see. And we're contractually obligated in many cases to cover those increases. And the last thing I wanna do is to have the golf course be a financial burden to the town of Harwich. But we're so far askew the other side, I believe it's disingenuous to say we need to increase the fee structure at Cranberry Valley because everything else has gone up. And because we've always done it every other year. So what? It should be a math exercise. It should be, it costs you this much to run the golf course, you're taking in this much. Always, any good business is gonna allow for some variations. So I'm not saying if it costs us $1.8 million to run the golf course, including shared services, and you're taking in $2.2 million, that you reduce the rates to get it down to a projected revenue stream of $1.8 million, but maybe you split it. Maybe you say, okay, if it only costs us $1.8 million to run the golf course, even if some unforeseen thing happens and causes us to have expenditures over 10% of what we forecasted and budgeted and projected for, we need to have the funds to cover that within the revenues from the golf course. And you got a couple $100,000 that you're playing with. But we shouldn't be increasing the rate. When it's, in a commercial business, you set your rates on whatever the market will bear. Because your goal is to make as much money as you can. This is not a commercial business. We do not, again, I do not think we should ever be a burden to the taxpayers of the town for having a golf course. But we shouldn't be trying to price it like a commercial function that says, since everything else has gone up due to inflation, by default, we have to go up as well. It just doesn't work.
If you were flatlining budgeting right now, you'd be increasing your budget by at least 7%
Yes,
due to inflation.
yes.
The thing that we've been down this road before, even though the revenues are 2.2 and the direct golf operating expenses are 1.6.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks we're making $600,000. I've been told many times we don't make profit in a town. So, but the $600,000 that we don't understand, we've been down this road for the last year, Steve, and you've been an advocate of this.
Indirect costs.
It's the indirect costs in the town that we're supporting.
And I understand that, and
So I mean,
And I,
so the
Right.
way that we've always agreed to run our so-called business here at Cranberry Valley is, we generate as much revenue as we can within the structure, because, we're funding the town in a lot of other areas too. That's part of our guiding principle.
if it is part of our guiding principle, then I think we owe it to get as close to itemization through estimates as we can. And we owe it to the members, or the annual pass holders and the taxpayers to publicly say that. To say, we are setting rates that puts the golf course at no risk whatsoever to being a cost burden for the town. The excess, if any, from the revenue generated goes back into the general fund for the town as an added advantage for the fact that we have a municipal golf course in the town of Harwich. Just transparency. Tell the people what you're doing. If we go to increase the annual pass holder rates again next year, and somebody says, why did you increase the rates? Well, because we wanted to give more money back to the town.
No, that's not right. Just remember one thing that we've done over the course of the year. And we've developed two budgets within our golf committee, the golf improvement budget and the
Yeah.
infrastructure fund.
Yeah?
If we didn't have the infrastructure fund, we'd still have a chicken coop up there holding golf carts.
Yeah.
We funded the whole golf cart program based on what our creativity in coming up with an infrastructure fund.
Okay.
We've put good golf carts on the golf course. We've upgraded the capacity of the golf cart with GPS. I mean, we've really upgraded our whole Cranberry Valley environment. So, I mean, we've done a lot of things to improve the playing conditions at Cranberry Valley, as well as the playing experience for the player that is there. So, I mean, a lot of things that we've done have been invested back into the Cranberry Valley golf operation.
Okay.
So I think that's very important.
Yes.
Karen?
Okay, Karen Doucette, I'm asking my question now. I'm part of the Harwich Finance Committee, so this is kind of an interesting conversation all around. So I think it's important that we get to the bottom of all these funds that you guys just talked about. So I understand we have a golf improvement fund of $2.2 million. I just heard about an infrastructure fund, which I'm not sure I saw that noted here, and I don't know what's in that or how money gets into that fund or the golf improvement fund, and I'd really love to know that. I heard a reference to where, what Steve said and what Bob said. Bob said we're losing money, which is what a lot of people think of the course, but the numbers here suggest we're not losing money, that we're making money. From on the golf expense revenue FY 16 to 22, all the way from 2016 to now, we've made 300, according to this, it looks like we're making like 300 grand all the way up to 600 grand plus this year. So, I mean, that's a heck of a lot of money, which even from a finance committee perspective, I don't know where all this money's going to. I don't know if what Steve said, it goes back to the town and to a general fund, or what you're saying about this infrastructure fund, which I've not heard about up until just right now. And I know there's a note in your summary, Roland, of $2.2 million in this golf improvement fund. So how's the money get there? I know what it's intended to be used for, but I don't know. I think we're going to need to see that. Like, I feel like we need to understand that better, because I don't think, if your committee doesn't agree or understand all of that clearly, how could anybody else? And I'm on the finance committee, and I would love to understand it better.
We understand the golf improvement budget and the infrastructure fund. The golf improvement budget is a $30 out of each membership that goes to a fund that we use for projects on the golf course. If you've noticed over the golf course for the last 6 or 7 years, we've taken trees down every year. Trees come out of this golf improvement budget. The trees have improved the golf course so much in terms of airflow and sunshine that have improved the playing conditions. So that's an example of what we use the golf improvement budget for.
Yeah, before you go.
If we didn't have that golf improvement budget, we would not have the money available. We'd have to go to the town for a capital request every year, and we don't get things done that way.
Yeah, and I'm not,
And the other thing,
can I just, before you go on to the other thing?
Yeah.
That's helpful to know that. I think I heard you say $30 from each membership goes into the golf improvement fund. Sure. And I do know that on the one capital request that, I'm also on the capital outlay committee, just as I guess I have to tell you that stuff. There's the irrigation system in a couple of years, $1.2 million, is referenced that the golf improvement fund will be the funding source, which is great. I understand that it funds great stuff. nobody's arguing that. I want to see great stuff at the course also. But I don't So that's helpful to know that and I read everywhere and I couldn't find how the golf improvement fund was funded.
Health Improvement Fund does not include the irrigation, though. The
Well-
irrigation is a capital project.
It is, but it's, okay, let's put that in, that's another day, and we'll deal with that when Roman comes to the capital outlay meeting. But that's on there, we'll have to talk about that in terms of the funding source. The infrastructure fund, Roman, if you could answer, what is the infrastructure fund and how is that funded and what's in it now?
Yeah, so the infrastructure fund, it was set up originally, or it was set up in FY 18 or so to fund, originally our capital project, which built the cart barn, and it was $1.2 million project. So it pays the annual debt service on that, and we've paid 100% of the annual debt service on that. It's $20 per membership sold goes into it, and $4 per greens fee sold go into that fund. And that's a revolving fund. I don't think it was originally set up as a revolving fund. It was changed to a revolving fund to give the accounting department flexibility in paying that service.
Awesome, thank you for that clarification. And then just the one final thing. So where does let's say we're at so our run rate now is 600 plus this grand to make at least $600 plus $1,000 this year. Where does that money go?
So, so that's always been told to us that covers indirect costs, post-employment benefits, employee benefits that are not allocated directly to our budgets. Those are not budgetary allocations.
Benefits, got it. Which means we probably break close to even on that.
Yeah.
I get that now, because that was one of my questions, because your breakdown had salary and wages, but it didn't say benefits. That's really
Yeah, we're never
helpful.
allocated those costs, but those indirect costs include a number of items like that, post-employment benefits, insurance, things like that.
Very helpful, thank you.
Welcome.
But Roman,
And-
those are not all indirect costs just for the golf operation.
Right,
Those go into the town indirect cost.
right, to cover our share though. I mean,
To
so,
cover our share plus.
And again, I have no issues with that, other than the fact, well, I have several issues. A, we should be able to get an estimated itemization of that. I know it's not an exact science and stuff, but it's simple math to do. Every business does it in the world. And B, it's variable in that we had record revenues this past year. That number's 600,000. 2 years ago was only 300,000. So is it variable so that 3 years ago, 300,000 covered all those indirect costs? And in 3 years, they doubled? Or does it just magically net every year, regardless?
I believe that the COVID year, we ran in the red. I mean, if you looked at it
And
that way.
again,
So,
you can pay for business interruption insurance. All of this stuff can be itemized, but right now, it certainly seems, from the view that I have, outside looking in, I've asked for the detailed numbers and I can't get them. From the outside looking in, it is, whatever that number is, it's break even. If we do 2.2 million versus a 1.6 million operating budget, 600,000 goes to the indirect costs. If we did 1.8 million versus a 1.6 million operating budget, 200,000 would cover the indirect costs. It's whatever the heck it is. And that's simply not right finance. It's not right math. Unless we want to tell the world, i.e. the taxpayers of this town, with a focus on the people that are paying those rates, that's the deal. We're gonna be competitive with rates to other service offerings in surrounding towns. We're gonna try to do it as, and step functions, all these things that we do. And if we have a great year, terrific. We're gonna cover all our indirect costs. If we have a bad year, the town's gonna have to pick up a little bit of our indirect costs. If we have a middle year, we're always gonna bring, but just tell people what's really going on. We owe it to them. They are our constituents.
They know. What's municipal finance? It's revenues equals cost. There is no profit.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Bob.
and I want to address this to you because that's how we need to function, is through you as the chair. We can't lose sight of the fact that this asset, known as Cranberry Valley, isn't just for the benefit of us who play golf. It is a town asset.
Right.
It belongs to the town. We are participants in the financing of the town. We just need to keep that in mind, that's
Right.
all. I just want to raise that point.
Thank you, Paul.
And
Can we
just-
go to old business, Roman?
Yes.
The report, the USGA,
Yeah, this will be a quick one. So,
oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
Can I just say something quickly,
Yes.
because there's confusion
I'm
here?
sorry. I didn't
First of
see
all,
you.
the people at the golf course have no idea how well we do or how poorly we do. But I just heard that we make $600,000, but we've got $600,000 of allocated cost that isn't charged to that. That's correct. I mean, John Shurey told me it was 800,000. I don't think the golf course makes money, but as a resident, I don't have a problem with that because it increases the value that we have a golf course. I just think we have to understand that this golf course is really not a moneymaker if you take consideration all the costs that's not allocated to the golf course, such as payroll taxes, unemployment insurance, workman comp insurance. It just adds up. It's just difficult in this state to run a golf course at a profit. But so I don't have a problem when you're raising rates because I really don't think this course makes that much money. I just think it's a misnomer where all this allocated cost is not charged to the golf course. Residents don't know that unless they talk to someone in the know, but I just heard now that we made $600,000, but the $600,000 Karen says probably have unallocated costs. I think it's closer to 800. It probably will because everything's going up, as we say, 7%. So, yeah, year to date. So I don't think this course makes a hell of a lot of money, which is fine because it increases the value of this town. It's a great asset. I'd just like to see us charge non-residents a little bit more money. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob.
And if I could just, one last thing and then I'll shut up, I promise.
I'm going to keep you to.
Okay. On the finances, one thing that I would ask for is that we use, and we don't seem to use it as part of our analysis when we talk about rates and fees, is if we're going to increase rates and increase revenue, we need to look at the utilization of the asset. We had record revenues this past year, fiscal year, because we had record play on the golf course this past year. And it's a finite asset. And the more people that play, the more wear and tear on that asset. So if we're doing 18, 20, 22% increased utilization, increased number of rounds from year to year, my contention is that should be close to the same percentage that we increase the budget amount that we spend on maintenance of the golf course. The more you wear on the golf course, the more you need to spend to keep it up to snuff and to keep it a viable option compared to the other municipal golf courses around us. And we don't seem to use that at all. I mean, we get a very similar operating budget increase to other departments in the town. Well, the reality is, on your car, on your boat, anything, the more you use it, the more you have to anticipate spending on maintenance to keep it running well and keep it running right. There's a difference between somebody that puts 5,000 miles on a car a year and somebody that puts 25,000 miles in terms of their maintenance cost. That should be a key factor for us at budget time, that if we're seeing a dramatic increase, percentage-wise, in the utilization, we need to see a fairly substantial increase in the budget amount, which the incremental revenue should be able to pay for, to keep that asset pristine, or we're gonna start seeing a drop-off in the membership and the utilization.
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Thank you.
But that was excuse me, Martha.
Go ahead, John.
But that was the reason that we came up with the golf improvement budget and also the infrastructure fund to be able to do projects to
Like
keep the
that.
golf course viable.
To keep the course like it is today.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Roman?
Yes, so you're going to old business, Martha?
Yes,
USGA report, this is
Yeah.
gonna be a quick one.
yeah,
So everybody that met with the USGA agronomist, in August when he came, and he promised to report within 2 weeks, in that 2-week window, he ceased his employment at the USGA, and no report was produced. And so they called us and they returned our fee, and they said we'll have a preferred spot next year, so we're gonna do the USGA report next year with a new agronomist, but, there's no report
He
produced.
seems so great.
Yeah, something didn't work out. And I actually communicated with him about 2 weeks later, and today, when's the report coming? He asked me for the names of everybody that attended so he could include it in the report, and about a week later, we heard he's no longer employed.
okay.
Oh dear.
So no reports coming. But instead of doing it every 2 years, we'll do it now next year.
Okay.
They told us they'd give us a preferred date.
But you said they refunded our.
Yeah, they refund our fee.
Right.
Carol,
Not
would you like
inexpensive.
to address the last old business, which was in regard to the upkeep of the clubhouse?
Yeah, I just thought it would be a good idea for us all to discuss areas that we felt we could improve upon, both in structure or in process. And among those things, I talked about the hanging fans on the outside. But I thought we might all put our collective hats together and come up with some suggestions we might offer for this year or next. Process improvements, or I'll give an example. Roman had mentioned difficulty with retrieving range balls, and that he was thinking of, could we put nets back there? I went back with one of the guys and looked down there. I couldn't believe how steep a drop-off it was. And not only that, but where they had to reach in physically was full of poison ivy and thorns, and we need to do something to help. So that's one idea of, can we fund, whether it's bales of hay that you had talked about as a possibility. One other thing that came to mind is one of the starters said you were having difficulty getting people to actually get their carts around the bend and into, be tended to be washed and back out. They were trying to find carts. And people were dropping them off in the parking lot, but not really getting them around the corner. And one suggestion was, well, could we just paint lines on the ground and say, please, this is where your carts go? One little item. And I'm sure another that I ran into is, we have our pitching area and our chipping area, but I ran into a gentleman in that area that was putting. So I suggested to him that, gee, you may want to go to our putting area because people are hitting balls up onto that surface. And he said, oh yeah? Where does it say that? And I said, well, this is, and it doesn't. He is right. I had to go in and ask Roman for some help because the man was quite threatening. And, I wanted to, and others did want to pitch and chip, but didn't want to hurt him. And he wouldn't move. And he was using his own balls. And I said, well, sir, did you buy your balls that you're playing with? And he said, no. Where does it say that? And he was right. It didn't. So one suggestion is, can we put a sign on our area to say, this is for pitching and chipping only, and please use range balls. So just kind of little ideas that we might all have that could help the course. And I don't know if any of you had given any thought to those ideas. I was going to suggest that we have an engineer go through our building Because as we're doing improvements to that building, we may want to think in the future, do we need a new building? Do we need a new clubhouse that more appropriately meets our needs for the future? I think our clubhouse dining facility is sorely lacking in terms of the ability to serve people indoors and therefore support a vendor who is trying to serve us and yet be profitable himself or herself. So we might want to think of that in the future. And so this report, which might tell us, no, your structure is really not appropriate for the long term, may necessitate a plan for us to redo a clubhouse for our future. So I don't know if any of you thought about that item on our
John,
agenda.
Would that come under long and short-term goals that you work on?
I would think a clubhouse would be a capital project.
Yeah, would be.
Yeah.
I think to put some clarity to that topic, I think would need a pretty good report from Sean Libby. And
Yeah.
Roman, you say he goes every year in terms of an update on what the structure is of the clubhouse or the HVC or whatever that we have in operation. So I
Would
would think
you
a
do
lot of
that,
what our
Roman?
needs would be predicated on what the condition of the clubhouse is right now.
I think the, Roman's sharing with us that Sean does like a bit of an assessment after the season or whatever. I think it would be constructive for us to have that, notes on that maybe, and that might stimulate, in addition to what Carol's raised, might stimulate some other ideas that we might have going forward.
Or maybe we could even join him when he
he
goes
walks
up,
through.
when he goes up and does the walkthrough, if it could be scheduled, just for another extra set of eyes. I'm sorry?
Post.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, anything we would talk about there, we would have to bring back to the meeting and post.
No. Post going there.
Yeah,
Oh, as a committee, we need to
Yes.
post that we're gonna go there.
yeah, with
Okay,
them.
all right. We could do that.
Yeah, I'll talk to Roman about when.
We also had an issue, apparently our expansion of the dining facility has a lot to do with our septic system. And so we may want to investigate that a little bit further. Does it or doesn't it, or can it be expanded, or can't it? And that would be very telling to our future as well.
Well, the town certainly has all that information. Karen?
Sorry, real quick. Karen Doucette, member of the Capital Outlay Committee. So we're going through the process now for next year's capital plan. And one of the questions, when the golf committee comes, or the golf leadership comes, I will ask a question. One of the recommendations is replace the AC in the pro shop or something like that. Regardless, one of the questions is, what's the long-term plan for the whole building, so that you would say it makes sense to not invest a whole lot of money if there's a plan in 5 years to replace the building. Just as an example, but those are the types of questions that we'll be starting to ask in that other forum as well.
That's
But
great.
just
Thank you.
to your point.
Any other business?
Just real quick, to Carol's earlier point about the signs and stuff, I think, yeah, the cost
Those
would
are
be,
easy.
the cost would be minimal, et cetera. However, one thing I would throw out is that I really think we need to be a little bit, my recommendation is we should be a little bit more strict with the actual rules of the golf course and the policies that we have in terms of members. I mean, if you don't belong, if you don't have a range membership, you're not supposed to use that short area at all. And if we know of people that are using that short area without a range membership, they should be told, you're not supposed to be doing that.
That would be a staff member would do that.
I mean, Roman
You
was.
would just have to go up to the starter or whoever.
In general, if you purchase balls,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
then you
Then
can use
you
the area.
know.
That's
Well,
fine.
So if you're using yellow balls,
Yeah, but, people, I mean, I know one of the suggestions on the range is change the pricing schema and go away from the range membership, and because we believe people are passing tokens around and stuff. Roman, you mentioned to me about a guy that actually goes out and moves tee markers and stuff, and, I mean, if we have members that are knowingly breaking the rules, I think we should warn them, just to make sure, or talk to them just to make sure. You know you're breaking the rule, and you're not supposed to be doing these things. You're not supposed to take range balls home and reuse them at your pleasure, or whatever. You're not supposed to move tee mark, and if they do it again, we should take their membership away.
Well, Steve, don't assume that doesn't happen. I have those conversations all the time with people.
Do we actually take memberships away,
Well, no,
though,
I mean,
from
you know,
habitual offenders?
I hate
that-
to say so, but my big threat is to appear before the golf committee, and the golf committee did, like 6 years ago or so, suspend somebody who hit another golfer when they were playing through them. So I have those conversations all the time, and they're normally handled in a civil way.
Yep. Yeah, I just have a fear that, you know, the infamous, a small amount of bad apples shouldn't be driving what we do. I mean, if people are knowingly breaking the rules, having been talked to and informed, there should be some penalty involved so that we don't have to have everybody suffer for their ills. But anyways.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will meet on the 25th, 4 o'clock, rates and fees. Would anybody so move to adjourn?
I would move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Well, got through that one.
Tuesday, the 25th at 4.